Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of This Week in Digital Health. Today we are joined by Dana Lee of Wander Health. Dana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So Dana, give us a little bit of your background. I understand that in a previous life you worked at an accelerator. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my background has always been in healthcare innovation. I started out by co-founding a community innovation program at Dell Medical School called the Health Leadership Apprentice Program. And that was my first start and taste of the health innovation world. I built a platform where I could help community members who were interested in furthering the health of the city of Austin and build out ideas and new projects and companies even that could support like the community there. And so I went into payment innovation, thinking about how I can create value-based care models between insurance companies and hospitals and healthcare systems. And then my last role, I was part of the founding team of TWIDH, which is a leading digital health ecosystem that has a collaborative of 40 different children's hospitals from around the world that were interested in piloting and partnering with the startups that we brought in through our Accelerator programs, which one being the AWS's Healthcare Accelerator. We ran that, the first and the second one as well in the US. And then we worked on Press Ganey and all these other prominent digital health programs. And it was great. I was exposed to a lot of different people, people who are industry experts, and then there are a lot of different founders and people working in the digital health startup realm. And it was very inspiring to just really like meet people thinking about new ways, new ideas and solutions that could solve our current existing problems here in the States.
I mean, so clearly you were sitting on the other side of the table. Now that you're a founder, you get to see it from the founder side. Tell us about sort of, how that experience from sitting on both sides of the table have influenced you as in your startup.
Yeah, so I think that like there are two perspectives that I like that have changed a lot for me, being from the accelerator operator lens and then now the startup founder lens. The first being priorities. Throughout the 6 programs I ran, there were like tasks and time commitment from like specific roles associated with the curriculum that we put together. And we would expect the CEO or one of the co-founders to sit through 1 to 3 hours of workshops, lectures, almost every day for 4 to 13 weeks, depending on the length of the program. And honestly, now looking back, like I know that I'm an early stage startup founder right now. So, and realizing that and thinking about that, I don't even have the time to give on top of like completing the expected tasks and like run a company all at the same time in the early days. So we were actually even more focused on like those growth stage companies that were, post Series A. So I can't even imagine that what our expectation was for them compared to like what they actually could offer. It definitely conflicts a lot. And now I'm really understanding that founders need to prioritize what's most important to them, and they can easily be pulled into a million things, which may not move the growth of their company forward. And the second piece of that what I've like really learned too from both views is empathy. I vetted probably over 1,000 digital health companies, and depending on what specific accelerator, depending on what the specific accelerator I was working on, and what they were looking for, part of that vetting process, I could easily just use a filter. Like if they were revenue generating, the funding stage they're currently at, focus areas that were important to us. But now being on the founder side, I'm realizing that every company has a unique story that could be missed if a filter was put on it. And it's much more difficult to reach certain milestones depending on a variety of like different factors, like their background, the market that they're going after, like the product, complexity of the product that they're building. So I've learned also benchmarks are helpful for vetters or the accelerator operators, but shouldn't be the bar that it shouldn't be kind of like a clear-cut bar that they expect the companies to reach.
And what about your experience from the accelerators can you now use? Like, so, we've talked about some of the challenges and the disconnects, but what parts of the accelerator programs do you still find valuable?
Yeah, so now since I've been on the inside role side of like the accelerator, I'm more intentional on which types of program and initiatives that I apply to and like want to be a part of. And so certain things that so many of these accelerators they offer very similar resources like mentorship, specialized curriculum, press opportunities, and a bunch of other things. So I think about like what the value props are for each individual's accelerator program. And depending on what it is, like, for example, for the programs that we built, we had a customer base that were interested in the solutions that we were looking for. So, I'm looking for programs now where it won't just give me it won't just educate me, but I'm thinking about how can it advance me in product or sales or fundraising or marketing. And again, it's not like the generic, like somebody comes in and I'm listening to them speak. It's the, hey, like, let's get our hands dirty kind of support that I'm looking for in accelerators. Because I know that there's different programs have those small different value propositions that they offer. And that's what I've actually been encouraging a lot of my fellow peers who are startup founders to look into, rather than just saying, hey, like, that's an accelerator, that's a big name, I'm going to do it. But then they learn that they've put their time into something that may not be worth it for them. They've given up equity that it's not, the trade-off isn't as great, or the cost of the program is something that they could have used that money for something else. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the, sort of insights having worked at accelerator programs was how much the accelerators were not about the startups themselves and were more about the partners or the stakeholders. And, we would design the accelerators to meet the needs of the partners in the accelerators.
Yep.
And if you were a startup and you happen to align with, that big stakeholder and they were interested in you and you're interested in them, then it was magic, right? So it was, just, you couldn't be in a better position. But if for whatever reason, as a stakeholder, I mean, as a startup, you wanted to do something that didn't necessarily align with the stakeholder, it didn't work in the accelerator. So, it's been amazing to look at it in hindsight, and it's like, so much of it was never about the startups.
Yeah, it's surely how we built these programs were based off of who was paying us, who was where the money is currently going towards, like, what are these potential customers interested in buying? And then we based off like our curriculum and how we like worked with these companies based off of like those factors. And sometimes you like, now being on the side of the founder, I'm like, okay, there's like a lot I learned, fortunately enough, because I was running these programs, but I'm just lucky that I did that versus like a startup founder this is their first time starting a company, somebody who's like supposed to just know it all. And they can watch all these videos, they can talk to all these people, but it's not curated as much and as well for the early stage startups. And a lot of these accelerators are actually even looking more for not that typical early stage startup pre-product kind of stage now. They're looking for the stage after that, the ones that have already built a business, that there are customers, there's people, and that traditional
less risky.
Yeah, it's less risky for sure.
Right? Yeah.
Yep, makes sense. But the market has changed a lot, because before, like even YC, they were looking for companies that had a great idea, and that's pretty much it. But now they're like, not just them, but a lot of other programs, they're looking for traction and all these other things, these milestones that they're expecting founders to all know how to do and how to get there. before they even like offer help.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we do when we talk with folks is we always tell them, when you're looking at a program, ask them the metrics that they're measured on.
Yes, agree.
Because when you understand how they measure success, then you can understand whether or not you're aligned. We work with a local program, and the metric for success is job creation, because it's funded by the city, and the city wants new jobs created, which is fine. That's a perfectly legitimate metric, assuming that you as the startup want to build a bunch of jobs. If that's not your role or that's not your desire, that's not a program for you. So again, what we tell them is ask them the metrics on how they're measured, how their success is measured, because that'll give you some insights as to where they're going to focus.
Yeah, I love that advice. And that's also something that I am asking while I'm going through this process of like thinking about what type of support or programs that I want to participate in too. Because like I know the programs that I did before, like most of them were geared towards how many pilots can we get out of this program. And there's pros and cons there, right? The pro, great, like hopefully I'll get a customer. The con is that, hey, like, this is a program KPI, not a post-program KPI. Like they can give me all the connections they want, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be on me to figure it out, how to navigate a particularly different industry or market or something that I may not be as familiar with. So yeah, like also understanding like what's important to them.
Yeah, we did some work with a big pharma company, and they had an accelerator. And this pharma company, when you do a contract with them, like this can potentially set your company off for guaranteed success. However, typically negotiating a contract with them is a 2 or 3 year process. And you are basically focused and dedicated on trying to secure this contract, often at the expense of some other things. And then you're also very much tailoring your startup to meet the needs of that particular farmer or whoever the big player is. So it's one of those, like, it's definitely a catch-22. If you win the contract, you're set. But if you don't win the contract, you spend a lot of time and energy trying to meet the needs of the big partner or the big company. So you really need to look at these accelerators and understand what their underlying agenda is. To understand it. I'm assuming, and I probably shouldn't do that, but I'm assuming that most of the accelerators that you work with, equity was a goal at the end of the day.
Actually, no.
Okay. See, that's why I should assume.
Yeah, it was a good assumption because most people do ask for equity. No, it was equity free, no fees. Like
actually what I meant was the goal was to raise equity. So like a lot of these startups would go in with a demo day with the hopes of finding investors and to raise venture capital.
Oh, I see. Actually, no, too. We had a huge investor network for sure. In the digital health realm, like we can make those connections. We had plenty of companies that were raising while they were going through the program or shortly after. But no, actually, we were more focused on that customer, the path to converting to a customer. So that's why we thought about pilots. That's why we thought about how can we shorten that sales cycle that you just mentioned for these very lengthy, convoluted industries or customers that may take, over a year for something to happen. And so, so we were more focused on that traction piece. And if they raised money, if they got met new investors or advisors or board members or whatever that may be down the line, like that was just a value add for them.
And so with your own startup, you are currently bootstrapping and don't have immediate plans for raising capital. Why did you go that route?
Yeah, so obviously an investor's money is more expensive than my money. And so I believe that if you're a founder and you truly believe in your own business, that you'd risk your own capital and resources to make it happen. So, I feel that most people who do bootstrap, they're more likely to be more lean because it's their own money. It's also helpful to have full autonomy in the earlier days, and truly become an expert in this field without having to, very similar kind of conversation we're having here, mold too quickly to somebody else's agenda, like an investor's like portfolio strategy. So really thinking about like building a profitable, scalable business is like what my goal is. And for me to be lean and for me to have that control in doing so. And that's why this is the route that I'm taking.
And outside of an accelerator program, what resources are you able to tap into to support growing your startup?
Yeah. I think that I'm fortunate that I have a lot of different, well, again, being in the realm of healthcare innovation, it's the same, not necessarily the same people, but like I've been able to build those connections through showing them how I've been able to execute and operate different programs that have been successful. So I've leaned a lot towards like those networks that I already currently have. And of course, like right now I am like a solopreneur. So I'm thinking about like all the decisions I make are they're all strategic decisions that will affect the business I'm running. So I've been able to lean on other experts and very strong advocates in the industry, so I don't ever feel alone. I've been a part of a lot of founder community, or I am a part of a bunch of founder communities, fellowship programs too. That has been great and amazing resources that help me to understand, a particular function for building a business a little bit better, and from people who've done it before.
Part of the accelerator experience is the other startups in the class, right? And this gives you an opportunity to bounce things off one another. Is that available to you outside of that format? I mean, I'm assuming you're working from home and, you're not in a co-working space where you see a bunch of folks every day, based on where we currently are with COVID and whatnot. How is that experience, and sort of how do you not get lonely?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like most of the time I'm here at my apartment in my large bean bag or here at my desk, just try to change things up, the scenery here. Yeah, I think that the communities and programs that I've been a part of virtually, it's been crazy to be able to meet people from around the world. I'm building a company that really services in different countries, and I'm trying to build a global health community along with a company in that realm. And so being able to connect with other founders who've built in and or serviced their product in different countries has been really, really helpful for me to understand that market a little bit better too. So I never feel lonely because I feel like a lot of my calendar is definitely filled up with a bunch of people that I'm either meeting regularly, or there's like, founder support groups that I've been a part of, or I'm just meeting new people. So yeah, it consistently feels like I'm never alone and always on the Zoom.
So I know that you haven't done the big launch, but you sort of open the door a little bit and sort of talk around what you do. What are you working on? Tell us what's going on.
Yeah. So I'm working on an international care companion that helps travelers get access to healthcare services when they're abroad. So I'm serving as a tech-enabled concierge service to help individuals get access to vetted and English-speaking providers when they're traveling to any foreign country, and also helping them navigate a different healthcare system in these other countries that they aren't as familiar with. So for example, being able to get a recommendation on what the best primary care doctor or urgent care doctor near the location you're currently traveling to. And then knowing that, hey, they have an x-ray machine, knowing that they have anesthesia, knowing that they have the insulin that you need for your condition. So instead of just the headache of you having to call a bunch of different places, you not knowing how much things cost, not knowing how much or what to expect when you get the service, I'm creating a world and
And
a
that's all
kind of,
assuming you get past the language barrier, depending on where you're at.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So and that's also another thing, like I'm really trying to create this world that can help people who may not understand these different like nuances in different systems. And that's why I also want to look for providers that if English is your primary language and something that is more important to you in your care, then that's something that I'm wanting to like find for you. So yeah, so that's what I'm building.
So what has been the biggest surprise for you as a founder that you're like, why didn't I even know this?
Yeah. Like I think the biggest surprise it's been trying to so it's this whole time I thought building a business was, pretty straightforward. You know what the problem is, you have a solution, go after it. But it's a little different than just that. It's not as straightforward. It feels like I'm doing a science experiment like practically every week. I have an assumption. I like assume that this is the market that I'm going to go after. This is the solution they would want. This is how they would interact with it. And then I learn, the week after talking to a bunch of people, like that's not the right direction. And so I'm iterating every week to figure out, what the exact market is, what's the exact solution that people would actually engage with. So it's funny. I never thought and saw a founder as a scientist, but that's truly what I'm seeing because you're doing all these mini experiments very, very quickly and very often. And you have to do it really, you have to do it very as cost efficient as possible too. You see it in a lot of like human-centered design thinking and all that, but yeah, I mean, now I'm experiencing it and it happens more often than I thought.
I mean, what's interesting is, when we work with folks, we're always just like, so did you do a feasibility study? And they're like, yeah, we just, we have this idea, it's a good idea, and we just ran with it. And then you end up doing the feasibility, like you said, sort of live while you're trying to do everything else. So that's one of the challenges is, inevitably you'll have to do that feasibility, but when you choose to do it and how far down the road do you go before, because like you said, you had some assumptions and then you had to pivot a little bit because the reality was slightly different.
You can do all the research in the world and like on the research that you do where you're reading all these articles, all these trends, all that stuff, but until you actually like put it in action, that's
Actually
when
go talk to people, talk to humans.
Yeah, actually talk to people, actually do a POC, actually pilot, like that's when you know what you're building is it working.
So, we talked about some of the challenges. What's the best thing about being a founder and starting your business?
Yeah. I feel that I'm becoming a trailblazer in this travel health realm and which is a relatively like newer digital health industry. There hasn't been that much innovation in this space in comparison to like telehealth or wearables or mental health or any of these other hot topics. And so I'm really inspired and hopeful every day that I get to build something that really can create a better future for everyone.
And how much has technology sort of changed the way that you're doing this startup, right? Because, a lot of what you're doing now, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, would have been pick up the phone, call 12 people, figure all that out. How has technology enabled you to do it by yourself and given you leverage?
Yeah, I'm so thankful for technology because it's been able to connect so much information into, the internet, and we're able to learn from others. We've been able to write about our own experiences and take from that information and pretty much use it to build something new. I'm going kind of like that aggregator model route where I'm looking at public information to think about how can these comments from people who had good or bad experiences in healthcare in different countries can be applied to the product that I'm building. So it's it's been very, very helpful to be able to just see and read and hear from people who have done it, or who've had horrible experiences in it. And yeah, and again, kind of mold it all together and build something new.
So what are your milestones for 2023? What are you focused on?
Yeah, so I'm launching my company the end of this month. So I'm excited to do that, and I hope that
If you want a
I
magic
can.
insight, look at the link below.
Yeah, and I'm excited to really showcase like this new industry and like talk more about why this is an important thing to know. And it's truly a pain point for a lot of people that I've talked to. So being able to like spread more awareness about this particular industry. And then, I've also have learned a lot about a strong trend towards like biohacking. And so again, being able to educate, raise awareness, and also make people's lives better. Like my goal truly every year, actually, not even 2023, is to make people's lives better. And with biohacking, for example, like people want to know how to be healthier. And so my company can give them vetted resources and transparency in price and services whenever they're abroad. And so they can make more informative decisions without jeopardizing their health and safety. So yeah, like that truly, those two things are like main on my list, but I hope, down the line that well, who knows, this year it could be profitable at the end of the year, or it could be, a next year goal. So we'll see.
And sort of on a closing note, I know that in the past, and I think it's on your LinkedIn bio, that you've been a digital health influencer. How is sort of the influencer world and thought leadership factored into your marketing plans?
Yeah, so it's interesting how content creating has been a more prevalent thing nowadays, that a lot of founders that I've met also have to think about how can they build their own personal brand, which in return can improve or can optimize their the business that they're building and the work that they're doing. So I feel like I'm entering this world that something that I am comfortable with is being able to be authentic and teach people about something that I'm passionate about. And hopefully that can result into better returns for my company or business that I'm building. And so I've learned along this journey is that people want to know that you're not just here to sell something, but you're here to make a difference. And they want to learn about the journey that you're going through while you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, so many people care about like, what's your story? Tell us your story. Because like you said, they want to know if you're genuine. They want to know why you're in it. Yeah. So Dana,
Yeah.
we very much appreciate your time today. We wish you the best. We look forward to hearing more from you, and we'll check in. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mike.